everybody. Welcome to ESPN FC live on this Sunday. Stevie Nichols with me, Luis Miguel Echegaray. You all know me as LME. We'll be discussing the three matches that just took place in the Premier League, beginning with Fulham's 3-2 victory over Liverpool. The first time that Liverpool have lost away from home under Arne Slot. They remain top of the table, 11 points clear, but regardless, I would say a below par performance. I'm sure my friend Stevie has much more to say. Stevie, give me your initial reaction as Liverpool lose 3-2 to the Cottagers.
My reaction is, why were Liverpool so bad? You know, it's understandable when you have an 11-point lead with a game in hand, going into a game, and I get it that you can be a little off it, you know. The butterflies aren't quite as tight. It seems inevitable you're going to win the league. So I do kind of get it that at the start of the game, they're not 100% focused. However, there's a difference between not being 100% focused and just being on the beach, because that's what Liverpool were for 60 minutes. Absolutely on the beach. I mean, defensively, an absolute and utter shambles. Bang average in the middle of the park, and the forwards, well, they never got the ball anyway, so they can't do anything. I mean, it was just a terrible performance. And yes, you know, the games they have coming up, you got West Ham at home, big time favourites. You got Leicester away, really, you're not going to beat Leicester. And then you got Tottenham at home. So, you know, it's not a disaster, but the performance was just horrible. I mean, Liverpool actually took the lead through a great strike from McAllister against the run of play, completely against the run of play. And maybe that made them even more complacent, the fact that they were getting outplayed, outfought, outthought, but yet they were still winning. 3 terrible goals. Curtis Jones playing at fullback again. Again, I don't understand this one. You got Conor Bradley, you got Quansah on the bench. You're away from home. You don't play Curtis Jones away from home at fullback. You can get away with that at Anfield, which they did last week, but not away from home. The 2 centre-backs, Van Dijk and Konaté, just horrendous. Konaté got substituted. That's how bad he was. Van Dijk got caught out for the 3rd goal and just made totally unusual mistakes throughout the game. Andy Robertson playing left-back, possibly one of his worst games in a Liverpool jersey. I mean, they were just so bad. It's just scary how bad they were. So if you're on the slot, you've got to figure out how were they so bad for 60 minutes, but yet in the final 30 minutes could have salvaged the game. Because at 3-1 down, this game was over. This 3-1 down, it looked as though it probably could end up 4 or 5. But by the end of the game, Fulham were hanging on. So on the slot has to figure out how to get this team to start the next game the way they finished this game, because for an hour it was unacceptable.
Yeah, which is interesting because we're not talking about, you know, the middle of the season. We're not talking about Christmas time. We're talking about crunch time and a situation where even though there is a healthy lead at the top of the table, as you mentioned, and the job is obviously, you know, should be done with the next couple of matches, you would think that, especially because of everything we've seen on the Arne Slot, you would think that they shouldn't be poor for a whole hour. And Mohamed Salah had to wait literally like 15 minutes for his first touch, his first attempt on target after an hour. You mentioned Andy Robertson, horrific performance. There's so much to focus on. And we'll talk about the impact overall as well and everything. But, you know, Liverpool's 26th game unbeaten streak in the Premier League is snapped. We will compliment Fulham because they did do a lot of good things here, Stevie. But, you know, initially, before taping, you were talking to me about also the starting lineup just from the get-go. Is there anything in that lineup that you saw, what are you doing here on this log? Was there anything in particular that you looked at that you thought, that's not a good idea?
Yeah, as I said, Curtis Jones, you know, when you play at home and you play away, you know, they are 2 completely different animals. And so when you play away from home, you have to be a touch more conservative, a touch more safe, because you are away from home, you've got the crowd against you, the opposition, you know, are going to be at it. I mean, Liverpool have to know that Fulham are going to be at this, because for every single Fulham player, whether you think Fulham are playing for anything or not, every single Fulham player wants to play for Liverpool. And the only thing that you know they're going to do is try and impress anybody at Liverpool. So you have to be somewhat conservative. And that would mean, straight off the bat, you play a defender in a defensive position. You don't play a midfielder who wants to go forward and ask him to defend. And that's what he did. I think he got it completely wrong. Liverpool were 1-0 up, and they lose a goal because Curtis Jones isn't aware of what he should be thinking when the ball's coming in the box. He completely shuts off. He's not even next to Konate. He's 5 yards behind Konate, who just misses the ball. Any defender will tell you, you have to think that your teammate's going to mess it up, miss it, whatever. You got to think. You have to have the worst case scenario mentality as a defender. Curtis Jones didn't. It comes off his knee. It's a great finish from Sessegnon, but again, a defender deals with that a completely different way, and that puts Fulham back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, Konate had a terrible game for multiple reasons. We mentioned Robertson, you mentioned Curtis Jones playing in that situation. Mohamed Salah, he wasn't great against Everton. I think, we know that much, and, today, as we talked about it, it took him a long time for even to see the ball, let alone have any kind of threat. Was that more on Salah, do you think, a state of mind, or just the form that he's going on? Or was it just an overall strategic mistake not to try and feed him the ball more? Or was it really just the case that Fulham were really just that good being on him throughout the game?
I think it's really difficult to point the finger at Salah or other forwards. When you're playing in a game and you're a forward player and you're the man who's expected to be putting the ball in the net or at least creating, then, as you said, you have to get the ball. And Liverpool couldn't get him the ball. I mean, what is Mo Salah supposed to do if his teammates don't get him the ball? He has shown us throughout this season. That's why he's going for all the awards, the Ballon d'Or and the Golden Boot and all these things. The reason he's doing that is because he's taking advantage of Liverpool getting him the ball. But that's what they've done. They've got him the ball, and so if you don't get him it, what is he supposed to do? Now he did have a good opportunity, a ball in behind. Unfortunately, he was on his right foot. He didn't time it well and ended up going over the crossbar. But again, for me, the likes of Mo Salah, you can't point a finger at him today because of what was going on around him.
Yeah. There's a good question coming in from those of you watching. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. I'll ask it in a second. But I know Fulham fans. I'm getting there. I'm getting there right now. It was a great performance. I mean, I think it's the first time in a very long time where Fulham not only have won against Liverpool, but they've scored 3 goals past them as well. What from Fulham did you see specifically today that you thought, wow, that's pretty impressive?
Well, I saw everything I wanted to see from Fulham that I wanted to see from Liverpool. Fulham were the team that showed us what the beautiful game was all about. Passing, movement, desire, energy. I mean, Iwobi was running around with a smile on his face. Bassey at the back was tremendous. Even was marauding forward on runs. I mean, just all the things you want to see in a game of football, we got from Fulham, including goals. Sometimes you can play well and you can have the desire and the movement and you just can't finish it off. Well, 3 goals at home, absolutely deserved from Fulham, and 3 goals that their play actually did deserve. Now, again, you could look at the last half hour and question that, but for an hour, Fulham streets ahead of Liverpool in every single department, whichever way you want to look at it. Fighting, football, finishing, you name it, they were better.
Yeah. And with Brighton and Bournemouth dropping points, Fulham go 8th, in this very competitive race for European places. And of course, let's not forget the fact that they're still fighting for European competition. So well done, Fulham, indeed. I thought they were 3 Calvin Bassies at some point. He was like everywhere. Absolutely tremendous performance. All right, Stevie, here's your question. And thanks, everybody, for keeping them asking, because we're going to be talking about Brentford and Chelsea, Tottenham, Southampton in a second. Not into so much detail, but rather the impact. But, Stevie, regarding Liverpool, to just wrap this up here, obviously, we mentioned top of the table. They should really get the job done. It still remains a really good season under Arne Slot in his debut season as manager for the club. Let's focus on the future here. Are you slightly concerned, maybe worried a little bit about next campaign? This person is asking, if you end the season, quote unquote, badly, PSG, the Carabao Cup final, this kind of performance, with the additional issues of Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously almost surely in his way to Real Madrid. We don't know yet about Salah and Van Dijk, the futures in the air. How are you feeling about Liverpool next season and their hopes of, if they win the title, retaining it and obviously continue to succeed under the Dutch manager?
Well, there's actually 2 answers to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the first answer is right now, I'm not. Because right now, I'm expecting both Liverpool coaches and coaching staff and the directors of football and whatever title they have that take care of signing players and giving Arne Slot a squad. I'm assuming right now, everybody's putting their heads together and figuring out, right, how do we take the next step? And the next step would be, we ran out of gas probably a couple of weeks ago. How do we avoid that next season? And clearly, avoiding it means a deeper squad, which means a better squad. That is number one. And then the other thing is, okay, did I rotate enough if I'm Arne Slot? Is that why we run out of legs? And again, this is not a negative, because you've won the you're going to win the Premier League. As bad as Liverpool were today, they're going to win the Premier League. And so now is a good position to be in. You're still going to win it, but you know you can get better. So for me, I'm thinking this is what everybody at Liverpool are thinking. However, the second part of the answer is, if you ask me a couple of weeks before the kickoff of next season and there's not a lot changed in terms of the squad and the personnel, then I would say yes, I would be a little bit worried. Because what we've seen over the last few weeks is a culmination of what is going to be in front of Liverpool next season. And clearly what they have right now, they aren't capable of taking that next step. So, yeah, two answers. One, right now, I'm not worried. I think they're in good hands with the squad and the board and the directors of football. But again, come next season, if we're still looking at the same squad, the same depth, then I would be a little worried.
Yeah, I would presume that I'm favoring more the first part of that answer, because you would presume, because of the lack of inactivity in the transfer window, the transfer markets this season means a very busy summer indeed, specifically because of departures. But to your point, we kind of have to see how that plays out, because there's no doubt that other clubs obviously in the summer will be looking as well to get even better. So it's a very important summer for Liverpool Football Club, title or not, and obviously Salah or not. There's a lot. Depth is very important, as you mentioned. Regardless, Liverpool fans, a tough loss, but 11 points ahead, and they only need now the same number, 11 points, to clinch the Premier League title. And the remaining fixtures, as Stevie was mentioning them, at home to West Ham, away at Leicester City, at home to Tottenham, and then Chelsea. So you would think that hopefully, for the sake of Arne Slot and everything that Liverpool have done this season, they'll get that job done.